Hello chickies, welcome to the Fully Booked Penguin channel. I am Hannah and today we are doing my September reading wrap up. So over the month of September, I read a total of 8 books. So we have a little pile here and then I have 2 others that were digital. I read mostly fantasy this month, with one murder mystery and one sort of magical realism. So I figure we're just gonna jump right in. I have thoughts. None of them super stood out to me, so we have a middling month. But I shall share with you all my thoughts, and yeah, let's get into the video. Let's start off with our 2 visuals for the month. So first up we have Snow White with the red hair. And this is by Sorata Akiduki. This is volume 1 of the series, and I have previously watched the anime of this. And I've got to say, the anime actually adds more depth. Usually adaptations, they have to cut down on stuff. Whereas with this, the manga really skims over so much that the anime was the fleshing out one. I found it okay. I think the problem is that it's just so quick. You barely think on anything and it's just done. The relationship between Shirayuki and the Prince Zen is sort of, it just happens. You have no build up, it's just sort of, yeah, they like each other and you're like, oh, okay. They barely know each other. And the little arcs, like this covers several arcs and you're just flying with the stories. Shirayuki, she starts out and she's being hunted by her country's prince because she has red hair and that's rare. So she runs away, but she bumps into the prince of a neighboring country and they have a thing with a poisoned apple and she ends up getting captured. Prince comes along and saves her. So that little plot line is done within the first few pages. In the first chapter, that all of their meeting and the run-in with the prince and the other prince, and it all happens in those pages. And then we go on to the next arc and I'm like, wow, there's hardly time for much depth when it's going that quickly. So I will read the other one that I own, but I'm not sure I'll be continuing long term with the series just because it's so quick, and so I'd probably more buy the anime and watch the anime rather than read the manga, which is a surprise. Usually the mangas are over the anime, but in this case I can't remember what I gave it on Goodreads, but I think I'm going to give it a 3 stars just because, yeah, it feels like it's lacking some depth. Even though some of the characters are still lovable, it doesn't flesh it out enough for me personally. There's that one. Next up we have Kill the Villainess. This is volume 1 and the original story is by Your April, but the art is by Haegi. I'll start off by saying it's beautiful artwork. She's very pretty. In this we are following another isekai situation, but for this character she finds herself in the world as the villainess. She knows her fate, but she just can't bring herself to care. Because it's something she's read before, she just sees the world as fictional and nothing's really real. And so because of that, she doesn't care if the world comes to an end. In fact, she would probably prefer it if the world were just to come to an end. As is the case, she's kind of framed as the villainess. She's not really villainous at all. She's just framed as it, and she just can't be bothered standing up for herself and fighting it. I personally cried and was most won over by a section where you actually get her maid's point of view, and she likes and loves our girl, but she's depressed. But the maid is running around trying to prevent this tragedy from occurring, and it's just so touching. I think the turning point is that she runs into some people that know that she's a, dimension traveler. And so our girl figures, well, if they know that I'm here, then they might know a way to escape. So that's where we're up to in this one. It's very depressing. It's not your light-hearted, goofy time. It is dark and emotional and anxiety-inducing. Also, the original heroine and the male main character, as is the way with a lot of these ones, they are trash. They aren't good. And in fact, they might be the true villains of the story. I believe I gave this 4 stars, and I will continue with the series, but not quite as dedicated as, say, A Stepmother's Mission, or Who Made Me a Princess, or Villains Are Destined to Die. So they're the ones I'm very interested in, and this one's sort of taking a backseat, but I will continue with it. Okay, next up, I actually have 2 buddy reads here that are part of the same series. I've been reading a chapter a day of this series and talking over with a friend of mine. So we have Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets and Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban by J.K. Rowling. Now this is following Harry Potter, who discovers he is a wizard, and he ends up at a wizarding school. However, this wizarding school is dangerous, and the wizard who killed Harry's family may be on the loose once more, even though he was supposedly defeated when Harry was just a baby. But is he? Is he really? This is book 2, and we are following Harry in his 2nd year, and strange happenings are carrying on in the Hogwarts halls, and people are being petrified. And no one quite knows what it is, except that they're pretty sure Harry is behind it. In this one, book 3, we are following Harry, and in this one, a prisoner has escaped from Azkaban, which is their high security prison, and while he's on the loose, they're searching for him around the Hogwarts because supposedly he said something about he's at Hogwarts. And so they're keeping that under wraps because Harry might be in danger because this prisoner is responsible for telling the big bad guy where his parents were. We're hiding from the delivery man. I gave both of these 3 stars. They are middle grade fantasies, not really my age bracket, and so therefore I got a little frustrated with how mean people were about certain characters when it was kind of obvious what the truth was. And some of the characters that J.K. Rowling makes are so cruel and mean and horrible for no apparent reason, and the main characters just take a moment. But they are 12 or something years old. I shouldn't expect them to have like high detective skills when they are children. So I forgive it because it's a middle grade series, but it does leave me then with just meh feelings, personally. Some of the clues that JK drops for Harry and the team are pretty cool. And other than in this one, they have a new class, which is divination. I hate it. Luckily, Dumbledore and Hermione and the main characters are very sarcastic about it, which I like. I just hope that divination doesn't really take a part in most of the rest of the series. Yeah, so there was just a few moments, and in this one, the whole plot was kind of annoying because there's a plot twist at the end, but when you already know what the plot twist is, it makes every step along the way heartbreakingly just, Anyway, so there's those 2. We finished them off. 3 stars for each one. Next up, we have The Last Tiger by Julia and Brad Ryu. This follows like an alternate reality, Japan and Korea. And so it's during the occupation of the dragon colony, which is Japan, over the tiger colony, Korea. And so there's Unji, who is the daughter of a rich family, but of course women don't have high standings. They are there to marry well, and their education, though they get it, is just so that they are of high standing and then can make babies pretty much. And then there's Lee Sung, who is a poor tiger colony, and his father is in the mines, very, very downtrodden, and his dream is to take this test that the dragon colony have, which will give him this chi, this power that is, or ki, that all the dragon ones have, and they overpower the tigers because they've got these powers. I think going into this, I was super intrigued because the authors said that this tale is inspired by their grandparents' relationship and their own experience in the Korea and Japan war. So going into it, I had read or seen several different interviews about how the grandparents had this relationship because the grandma was from a rich family and the grandpa was obviously poor, and he was a rebel and she was, of course, going to get this arranged marriage, but they had these secret ways of communicating, secretively meeting up and building this relationship when it was very looked down upon. So it's really intriguing, really, I would have loved to read that and see how they struggled in that environment. However, when you get to this, the 2 main characters there isn't really a connection there. I think it's told that there's this connection, but you don't really feel it. And in fact, I feel like the main characters had better chemistry and relationship sort of dynamics with other people. So the girl had this other bloke, and the bloke had this girl, and I actually felt like they had more chemistry with those two pairings rather than together. And we're sort of hunting the last tiger, which is the tiger colony's basis for key. So if they save this tiger, their own magic will be released. They can fight against the dragon colony. And meanwhile, the girl is trying to build up herself in the dragon colony so that she can help out Lee Sung. But at the same time, she doesn't really have much control over her, that she can rise, but she still has the same fate of an arranged marriage, where she will be quiet, sit at home, and do her wifely duties. We spend a lot of time in the characters' heads with what-if situations, and not much time in the present with that tension and that imminent danger in the present. It's all in what if this happens, or what if I can do this, rather than it's happening, it's real. And I think it took away some of the tension or driving force, and instead you have, a few strange moments and no real depth to the relationships. So I really wanted to like it. And it's such a pretty book. And I truly went into it wanting it to become my favourite, but it lacked some dimension. So yeah, it was a little all over the place, and I didn't really connect to the story, unfortunately. I think I ended up giving it a 3.5. I feel like I enjoyed myself, but there was no real deep connection to the tale. So either 3 or 3.5 for this one. Unfortunately, I really wanted to like it. Next up we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is a magic realism fiction, and in this we are following our main character Nora, and she just has a downtrodden life, and she decides that it's not worth the living. But when she exits the world, she finds herself in this library, and she is given the option of reliving her life by undoing some of the regrets she has. And she has a lot of regrets, and so she can go into this certain book and relive her life if she had changed that mistake back here. She's still at technically this time, so if she's made that change, life has gone on, and she jumps in at this point rather than at the time of the mistake. She jumps in up here. So like a flow-on effect has happened, and now herself is here. And really, nothing good happens. I'm not going to blanket term depression, okay? And it is said that Nora has situational depression. As in, at the moment, she's just in a place where she's like, well, nothing's fun anymore. As a person who has struggled with depression, and I have more like a Christian hopefulness despite being depressed, so that's the thing that keeps me sane. But at the same time, I'm like, none of this is really making sense to me. I think it's because it clashed with my own feelings if I had to experience similar situations. I wouldn't have been like, oh, I have so much hope now. In fact, it probably made me more depressed. For me, nothing hopeful happened in this book, and her suddenly like, oh, everything's worth the living, just didn't. I was like, is it though? You haven't convinced me as a reader that it is. Because she swaps timelines and she just faces trouble after trouble. No matter which way she goes, she still ends up in a horrible place. So I felt like the hope aspect, or the, actually, maybe things aren't so bad, was a bit, what's the word? It felt a bit patronising. There's also a few mentions there. There's not explicit scenes, but it's mentioned. Just a few sex moments. And I'm like, do we need that though? It was kind of not required. It doesn't help with the plot. It doesn't help with anything. It's just there to be a bit crude, really. So I'm not sure I'm describing myself properly. I think I agreed with some of the Goodreads reviews, and I wrote a review on there as well, which I'm sure I was a lot more eloquent with. But there were others in there that were just like, I don't think he handled it in the best way. It felt like it was saying, if you just stop living in the past, the present is actually wonderful. And I'm like, is it though? So I guess in Nora's situation, the realization was good for her. And I know that some people love this book because it really speaks to them personally. But on a different level, as someone who doesn't just have situational, I guess I'm saying that if you struggle with depression, this might not be the book for you. I was actually enjoying this until a certain trip she goes on, and really everything goes downhill from there. And yeah, the solution just isn't satisfactory to me. She meets another traveller, and from that moment on, it just didn't make sense to me. It's also the same trip where she has a run-in with something, a polar bear, and she makes this sudden realization. Again, her situation, sure, maybe it worked. That's great for her. But as someone who struggles with a different vein of depression, it was just even more depressing and annoying and kind of insulting. So I think I gave it a 2 stars. I really wasn't impressed with it. Probably my fault, because I went in thinking it was going to be a cute, somewhat sad, but ultimately cute and cozy library book, and it wasn't anything to do with libraries and books. It was just a little depression with a bow on it, really. Not super impressed with that one, unfortunately. And for the final 2, I actually have a reading vlog for them, so I won't go super into them, but I will do a little overview. But for full thoughts and interactions, I'd go watch that reading vlog, which is a longish vlog, but you can skip to the chapters that have the actual books. I read A Retired Assassin's Guide to Country Gardening, which is a New Zealand paranormal murder mystery. It's meant to be cozy too. I'm not sure I agree with that statement. In this book, we are following Dante, who is a retired assassin, and he moves to New Zealand, to this quiet town, in order to live quietly and, live his life not killing anyone, because he's part of the AA Association, the Assassins Anonymous Association. And they have these meetings where they say how they're struggling, or they're like, oh, I just wanted to kill a man today, but I didn't. And everyone's like, good, you make sure you don't. So he's there, and he has a young man pop up on his doorstep and say, I want to garden your garden because there's a precious flower there that the old owner said I have to look after. And so Dante's like, okay, I'll allow you that. And then also Dante's past is kind of revealed, but not really. He's almost blackmailed into taking on this bodyguard role, and at this event, someone ends up nicked by a bullet and one person dead. The part of murder mysteries that I personally enjoy is the figuring out who the murderer is, and in this you know who the murderer is from pretty much the beginning. So it's no secret. So that just takes most of the enjoyment away. And it was also another one where the bad guy is just pretty much ahead of them every single step. And you're like, oh. Also going into it, I was expecting to follow the retired assassin, but the retired assassin probably gets 30% of the book, and the other 40-50% is actually this older lady who seems to have some detective skills. So she kind of takes over. She's the one that talks with the police and navigates that whole system. She kind of calls the shots. And then also we get the gardener's point of view, because he can see ghosts. And so you barely spend any time with the retired assassin, even though that's what I came for. And as for country gardening, probably 10%, if that. Maybe 5% of the book is actually about country gardening. So you don't really get what the blurb and the title say. You're not given what you're promised by that. I just wanted more of the retired assassin, and we didn't really get it. And so I didn't really love it. It was okay. The last 25% was kind of fun, but I won't be continuing with the series. So I think I gave it a 3 or 3.5 stars. So I didn't love it because the mystery was kind of predictable and your murderer is told to you pretty much. So it's sort of like, oh, we're just watching them try to figure out how he did it and why he did it and solve the other things he does wrong along the way while getting outsmarted the whole way. And so it wasn't quite as cozy or fun as I had been promised by the title. And the final book I read was The Huntress by Carrie Cotton. It is book 1 of the Huntress series. It's a medieval Christian fiction. In this, we are following Cyrene, who is the queen of the Picts, and they have hidden in the forest because their kingdom was destroyed by this king. And then we also follow Duncan, who is the king's son, so he's a prince. He ends up being the king. So this kingdom wiped out these ones because this kingdom claimed that this kingdom killed their queen and the newborn princesses. So the two main characters kind of hate each other, obviously, because they've been brought up with this certain story or these certain views. However, the kingdom is under attack by the Vikings and perhaps one of their own. And so they make a marriage alliance. The first prologue is the proposal scene, and then we go back in time 15 years to when the attack of that kingdom happened. and everything flows on from there. Duncan is our male lead, and he is very lovable right from the get-go. He does have a rocky patch, however. He hits a rocky patch because, fair enough, he's angry, but he starts this argument right when I thought they were finally working together happily. And I'm just like, why? It didn't make sense to me why he was suddenly angry with our main girl. He did redeem himself, but again, there was just, there was a final act conflict that just, I was like, why are you being like this, characters? Why? The story is mostly just their different grievances against each other and how they're dealing with that, and then them butting heads. And then they have the fight at the 75%, finally some action happens. So some of the conflicts didn't really sit well with me, but also they are fallible creatures, and revenge and non-forgiveness was definitely a theme. And also that was part of what they struggled with their different faith journeys. The faith content I found was pretty good, but they did just forget it at times. I don't know, maybe because I feel like my own faith is all-encompassing. It's sort of like when they're fully thing, and then suddenly it's like they just forget about this faith element for a bit and go and do their different things, and then they're like, oh, bring in more. My own conscience will be like, hello. Hello. So when characters just suddenly don't have any conscience or anything, I'm like, wait, we're just living life? Okay, well, every journey is different, so I have to just accept that that's a thing. But it does make it a little annoying sometimes. The romance was good when they weren't clashing, but they were clashing a lot, which makes sense because they're enemies to arranged marriage partners, and then maybe more. It's a tough situation, to be fair. There's a lot of loose ends that will lead to the other books in the series, but that's the wrap up for their relationship, and it did feel like they weren't seeing eye to eye for 99% of the book. I did enjoy it though. I did. And it was nice to be in a Christian medieval world. And once I got started, I did fly through the book. I read it mostly in one day. It took me a while to get into that day. But we did finish it in a day. So I don't know, I think I gave it a 4, and I will be continuing with this series. On reflection, there were some points that I was, it made me annoyed, which I live off annoyance. Sometimes my annoyance is actually my enjoyability factor. So when I say a book has annoyed me, it's not necessarily a bad thing. Unless I'm like, I hate these characters, then it's a bad thing. But if I'm just slightly annoyed, it's not necessarily a down point for them if I'm just annoyed. I'm slowly shrinking here, so this was a rather interesting wrap-up, because I didn't really have strong feelings about most of them. I'm currently in October, though, and having a much better month. So look forward to all the vlogs. I will throw this in here. I was going to release my Journey Through the Bible vlogs during October. However, because part of the challenge is, like, you have to escape from a trap, and the answers aren't revealed until Katie releases them, I personally will have to put off my vlogs until November, just so there's no spoilers. For editing's sake, I did message and ask for a yes or no answer whether I escaped or not, but that's for editing. I don't want to release the video and spoil it for someone. So with that said, I am going to graciously leave it till November to release those videos, so you won't get any of those vlogs, even though I'm filming them, editing them this month. I can't release them until November, which is sad, but I guess it gives me time and some content for November. So those videos are coming. Unfortunately, they will be next month, not this month, though. In the meantime, I'll have whatever I can come up with, some amusing things, maybe some short-form videos, as in shorter videos, rather than 50 minutes long. After I've done my second expedition, I might do a general vlog rather than run another expedition. I'll just read, and we can vlog that and release it. Who knows? We'll see what I feel like when I get to that point. But for now, that is a wrap on September. And my plans for October are up in the air now. But I can work with it. No skin off my chin. Skin off my bone? What's the saying? Oh well, no skin off my teeth. So for now, I'll leave you. I hope your September readings were great. I hope your October is even better. And yeah, I'll see you all in the next video. Until then, peace.
226